retracing education, and that is basically the exploration of redefining learning. And also, it is important to look at the history and what we can do in the future of education. I'm Dave from Score Campus. Together with me, there's three of them over here. We have the dear Mehak, all the way from India. We have Juliana, who has the best job in the world of designing experiences. Everything people eat, buy, and touch is a user experience. And she believes that learning has to be such an experience that it is well immersive and etched in memory. We have Gabriel, who has a cool job himself. He's an experience in corporate leadership, and now he's a full-time educator and an amazing person. Okay, so what's going to happen today is we're going to talk about redefining education. You know, what can we do in the future of education? But before that, we need to be talking about the history of education. So that is the main topic of retracing education. So I got a first question, and this is mainly for Gabriel because who's in the education scene for quite a while. So in your own experience, I'm sure that you have some opinion on the recent and the ancient education they've been going through for the past many years. So what we wanted to ask is, why is it relevant and why is it important for us to know that this is for us to understand the change needed in education?
Okay, hi everyone. Retracing education, basically understanding the history of education is important because education is affected by culture, right? There's a lot of cultural impact on education. So if you go and Google about the history of education, you realize that every single country, every subcontinent has got its own methods. When did it start? So as far as Egypt is concerned, you can retrace education all the way back to 1000 BC. But if you look at Japan and something like that, you're looking at the 6th century. So you can see that there is a gap, right? And every time when education started, they started talking about values. They started talking about building warriors. Only in countries like India, women were given a lot of, there was a lot of stake as far as education is concerned when it came to women earlier in the days, but it was mostly about arts. It was always about arts and housekeeping and stuff like that. But one thing that was standard across the board in almost every part of history when you retrace learning is mathematics was always there, you know, and then later on came the grammar and all that stuff. But in the beginning, it was always about building character, making a man out of somebody, making a woman out of somebody. It wasn't exactly subject oriented yet until most probably after the 10th century. So that is extremely important because it shows the cultural impact of education. And until today, there are still people talking about, you know, how those days education was different and education was better. And right now it is just a business and it is a mess. And it's important for us to understand if we want to retrace and we want to redefine education. That's my
So in your opinion, which country do you think have the best education in the world?
I don't think any one of them do. Everything is irrelevant and everything is outdated.
So, Juliana, would you like to add on to what Gabriel just said about how education has been transforming over the centuries?
So, hi everyone. So, I was an art student, right? And I studied design. Never really an academic person myself. I was constantly doodling on my textbooks. But one thing for sure, I remember the freedom I was given to pursue my passion. Right, that wasn't, my parents wasn't there to chase after my homework. I was actually, in fact, very glad to escape exams after O-level. And from then on, I was constantly on project-based homework ever. Right, so the skills that I actually picked it up from project-based, I think that was when I was in my 15 years old. And the skills I pick up doing project, right, it helps me tremendously into my career today. So I think the difference it's really about doing what I like doing, and then based on what I was enjoying doing in terms of crafting, in terms of coming up with ideas, that naturally goes into the effort that I put into anything that I put in for my projects and in school actually. So it just comes natural, right? It's not something that, you know, I have to take the textbook and I have to force myself into studying it. I think
so
that's
you were like a self-learner, like you just picked up on whatever you were experiencing, whatever projects, whatever things you were thinking of on your own, you were just building on it. So like a self-learner kind of an education you've had, you would say.
Yes.
So I think all four of us are of different ages, but we come to realize, right, that even though we're different age, we come from different family background and all that, all of us went through the exact same education system. So for Gabriel to Juliana's age and Mehak in India, and my secondary school was only close to 10 to 11 years ago. And practically everything we can talk about can sync up because there's been no difference at all. So that's basically retracing education, right? We are going back all the way to the 1970s, 80s, and there's still no difference in education system. So as a parent, right, Juliana, what do you think we should do, or what do you think we can do to shift the difference between the education system between what you went through and what your kids are going to go through?
I think if you are talking about the difference then and now, so I've got two boys, right? P3 and P5. That's age 10, 9 and 11. Because coming from a design background myself, non-academic, I pretty much give them a lot of freedom of learning. I pretty much gave them doing things of what they enjoy doing. But if you were to bring into today's context of home-based learning, right? Today, the boys at home, they are given timetable from 8 to 1 p.m. I would say that the learning today is pretty passive. It's all about doing worksheets in front of the computer, or rather in front of the video that the teacher is conducting. It's basically digitization of learning, right? Even though my boys, even though they will be given a allocated time of an hour to finish the papers, but my boys will just take 10 minutes to finish it. And I can tell that it's basically finishing it for the sake of finishing it, and they can rush off to do other things. Do they really learn anything, or are they really being engaged? I'm not sure. But I know that this is something for sure that is nothing innovative at all in terms of education. I know for sure that what they are doing today, which is about 20 years, 30 years later from what I was doing, pretty much the same. So we need to do something. We need to change.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like all the algebra, and I love maths, but I think it's just they don't tell me exactly what algebra and quadratic equations is. So it's like for Gabriel, I understand that one of the main reasons why you want to come to education world is because of your two dear kids. So can you just give us a bit of background of why you wanted to step into education, and what were you seeing in the education system that you just didn't like and wanted to improve on?
I didn't like anything in the education system because I don't think it represents learning. It represents grading, it represents papers, it represents contents. The relationships are with textbooks creators and syllabus creators and curriculum writers and exam creators. That is not what learning is. And I believe that they should be challenged, but there's a difference between positive stress and negative stress. So what the children of the world were going through was negative stress, right? And it's not even a small number; it's an extremely large number. And I'm not going to say that I came into education because of my children. I think my children were a major motivation factor, definitely. But everything was wrong because, see, I failed under the current system. I did not do well in the current education system. I was a top student in my earlier days, and then I was rock bottom last in class during my teenage years. But when I went to university, there were a couple of professors who didn't care about textbooks, who didn't care about syllabus, who didn't care about curriculums, and they made us fall in love with projects. And they gave us the most challenging projects that made us want to stay awake at night and stay up at night and talk to friends and do the research and find the best answers. Now, to me, that is amazing learning. And just to sit down and listen to stories and figure out solutions, that is the way learning should be. You must be excited by it. What Juliana just said, and the children are finishing for the sake of finishing. Why do you have to do homework? Oh, because teacher asked me to do it. I say, did you learn anything? Oh, I don't know. But when a test score comes, they will be able to get your 90 upon 100 and 95 upon 100 even, but will they know how to apply? Absolutely not. So that is the real problem. It's like, where is it all leading towards? So my motivation to come into education came from the fact that we need to redefine everything. We need to make it relevant. Like in 1978, if somebody asked me, give me the birth date, you need to find out the birth date of Mahatma Gandhi, you need to find out the day of independence of India, and being a Singaporean, I need to go somewhere and find that information, right? I needed to go to the library, to the reference section, and to get that information and come back. Today, I don't have to. I can just type it into Google. I can talk to Siri. I can talk to Alexa. So, but the thing is, our kids are not given that opportunity to do that. This technology is available today. So do you want them to remember stuff, or do you want them to find the answers? What do you want? Because if you want them to remember stuff, stay in 1955. But if you want them to find the answers, then you are going towards a new direction. And everything has to be changed. All your examination methods, your curriculum, everything has to change to fit the current model, what children would want. And as parents, what we want is our kids to be excited about school. Don't get me wrong. Right now, under COVID, they want to go back to school. Why? Because they want to meet their friends.
Friends.
Yeah.
Their PE lessons. They're running around.
Their PE lessons, maybe they are CCAs. They are, running around the court and everything. That's what they miss. If you tell them you have to attend P6, sixth grade mathematics, they're like, oh no, can I not do that? Can I do that under home-based learning again? So they're not excited by that.
Totally agree, right? As in, I think to what Gabe was saying, it's really about learning from project, right? As in back to the project thing that I was mentioning earlier on. It's really learning through project basis and by skills. As in, isn't that what we are dealing with in real working life today? Yeah. Right? As in, why can't we just train them from young? As a designer, I need to be mindful of why, what and who am I designing for? That is learning how to empathize, and also learning the science of behavior and mind of a person. I need to write a proposal to a potential client that is English writing. I don't really remember when I ever write a piece of composition again, after I graduate. Who writes a composition, or I'm not into literature. But I'm required to write and pitch for proposals, right? In today, actually, in fact, in any career that you be joining in, the subject that we learn, right, the English, the math, the science, should be embedded into the project.
Even like stuff like resume writing also.
Yeah. So it's all in the subject should be embedded into the projects that we are learning. And that's where it drives the passion of individual. That's where it drives, as in, I remember it really clear today, right? It drives the passion for us to find out why are we doing this, right? The research that we need to be doing, why the colors, why the purpose of it. Designer is not just about colors and everything. It's the motivation on why do we need to design something and designing that experience for that person. So there's a lot more behind it.
So when we talk about, the changing experiences in learning. So, what somebody 10 years ago would have experienced while they were in school and what children are experiencing now when it comes to learning. Who do you think is responsible for the facilitation of this change? Like as educators, as parents, we need to give our children a head start as to how they can make learning feasible for themselves, right? So any opinions on, as parents and as educators, what kind of a responsibility do we hold towards our children to bring them into the new wave of education, new learning, and more towards 21st century skills and 21st century learning, as opposed to what we've been doing for decades now?
There's a lot we can learn from I always like to talk about the animal kingdom. When a lion gives birth to a cub, a lioness gives birth to a cub, right? Initially, the lioness will hunt for you and then the cubs will eat. But after a while, the lioness pushes the cubs away. Go out and learn how to live yourself and learn how to hunt yourself and learn how to do everything by yourself. And there's such a thing called responsibility in learning, right? It's like, to me personally, I enjoy being a father and I do not want to transform myself into being a teacher. Because being a father is extremely important. Being a parent is being extremely important. Now, the problem is everybody is wearing different hats because some idiot in some country wrote a book called Parents Can Wear Different Hats. And because he wrote a book, everybody has to read it and everybody has to follow it because we do not have the habit of calling him dumb. But some guys are just dumb and they're bored, so they write a book. you know, and they become an authority. Oh, I'm a psychologist. I did this for 17 years and all that stuff. No. You went through 12 hours of labor so that that baby can come out of you. You better cherish that baby for the rest of your life. You know, and as parents, you need to really remember these moments. And I think somebody put out a quote a couple of days ago: the way we treat people will make them remember for the rest of their lives. And if we are really, really mean to them, it's not that they're going to be mean to others, they're going to lose faith in themselves. They're going to be scared to do everything. Now, who causes that? All of us do that. So the responsibility of learning technically should always remain with the students. It's their responsibility. The role of a teacher, you're a facilitator. You facilitate and you manage. You find out, you're the person who's figuring out what's happening, how is it happening, how can I improve that experience. As a parent, you're a nurturer. You nurture all, your job is to just the hugs, the kisses, you know, the trips, the memories. That's what your job is. And if everybody knows our role and we play our roles well, this is going to be an amazing journey. But if everybody tries to put on various hats, if a teacher tries to be a parent, but unfortunately it is happening, you know, parents are asking silly questions along the lines of why my child is not doing a homework. That is your job, you know. It's like, first of all, it's the child's job, but even if you don't even have the right to ask that question to a teacher, right? And the same thing, there's a wall between teachers and parents. So all these things are happening. So the only way to go forward is to redefine everything and everybody play our individual roles. Now, who's going to do this? God knows, right? I don't think the government is going to do it. I don't think any ministry is going to take that step. I think these individuals who have to have the daredevil attitude to go out there and do something, produce results, publish those results, and hopefully over a period of 10 to 15 years, people slowly adopt.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about Vested Party. I mean, we have teachers, we have parents, and all of them are doing all the various jobs, especially parents, you know, because parents are spending most of the time with the kids. And the last thing you want is for a child to, you know, look few years down the road and look back at their past and say that, oh, yeah, I remember always being disciplined by my dad or getting scolding by my mom for homework and all that. And being a student, I mean, there are three Vested parties. There are parents, they are the educators, and the students themselves. As a student, just a few years back, I feel that one of the most important thing a child can experience now, right, is basically learning how to get uncomfortable. You know, everything in school is just too comfortable. You know, I'm sitting down there, I'm listening to someone speak about 45 minutes, going back, doing some easy homework, bringing to school, getting corrections back. Everything is just laid down there perfectly. I'm not allowed to learn something new and fail at it. So like now, I always think to myself, I wake up every day wondering, oh man, if I learned this when I was young, when my mind was fresh, I would have done this so far.
Yes.
You know, and the sad thing about kids is sometimes they don't know what they don't know. Even as adults, we face that as well. But imagine as educators, we are exposing them to all these uncomfortable things at a young age. As they grow older, right, they've learned so many things already. Even something simple as traveling. If we start Ubering our kids, we start dropping them and picking them since young, right? As they go older, right, they will not be willing to travel by themselves. They need to get uncomfortable by traveling by themselves so that they don't end up complaining. Even stuff like this are pretty simple. You know, waking up early, you know, learning stuff that will get them out of their comfort zone, get them out of their circle. So I think that's how the kids, being the third Vested party, I can really play a part. But for that, educators really need to wake up.
Like a lot of facilitation has to come into play. And also, I think what we are looking at now is the changing responsibility of education and learning. I think all of us would say that we have to shift responsibility. We have to own things. Parents have to own up to what needs to be done. Educators and teachers need to facilitate learning suitable for children who are 21st century kids and not stuck in, you know, the industrialization time of our world. And yeah, I think it's about the responsibility. Who takes the ownership for learning? That's where we come down to.
I think
we've got to facilitate that process. If the ownership belongs to the students, then we've got to facilitate that. Right now, we just don't know who owns this. Is it correspondence? Is it principals? Is it the Ministry of Education? Is it teachers? nobody knows what's happening, and everybody and their uncle seems to have a saying. Right? Everybody is knocking education. Everybody is saying something about education. And then you're like, why don't you come and try this for yourself? You know, it's like, you feel like telling that. You see, when it comes to medicine and everything, there's a little level of respect. When it comes to other professions, there's a level of respect. When it comes to education, I'm going to just say this, okay? If anybody wants to stand outside my door and like throw stones at my door, please be my guest. There is no respect for education. There's no respect for educators. We get the leftovers. We don't feel that education is seen in the light it is supposed to be seen. That's the biggest problem. Make it difficult to become an educator in the first place. It's the biggest job on the planet. It is the most amazing job on the planet. Make it difficult to become one. Don't just take anybody and everybody. Of course, the answer of the authorities would be, oh, nobody's applying for the job. Nobody's applying for the job because it sucks. Make it fun, make it exciting, make it challenging, and people will come. And I think that's a good way to start, because the enablers, right? Like you see, even when Avengers came together, you needed that Fury guy to come. He had to come out first. He had to assemble the Avengers. And the same thing goes to us. This Fury guy is the best educator in the world, right? So that guy has to come over and then say, hey, you know what? I'm going to assemble this and I'm going to enable stuff. That character has to come alive. And for that to happen, people have to look at education and look at this particular job called the educator as the best vocation in the world. The best, passion is way beyond passion. But yeah, passion is so overused. I feel uncomfortable using it. But yeah, you have to be passionate about it.
But I think also everybody is, well, we can tell, as in you based on today, you know, everybody is at home, you know, the home-based learning come into place. Everybody is trying to use technology, right? Everybody is trying, we are trying. Then again, right, technology is like what you say, it's just a tool, right? How do we then make sure that technology should, you know, be able to enhance the learning experience of the students? Right. I think the challenge that we have today is how might we ensure that students are learning and feeling engaged? How do we even design a better way for students to feel passionate about learning? Sorry for the passion, but I think passion is big in me, man. I think really that goes a long way. And how do we then ensure that, you know, with the technology as a tool that makes their life and processes better, then the educator or the teacher will then have more value time with the students.
Very interesting point, Juliana. Yes.
So we can end off by saying, we spoke about the education in the past, which is retracing education. We spoke about the current education system, and of course, we're all not happy about it. So, what is the big change in education, in your opinion? What is going to shake the whole world, you know, and say that, wow, this is the future? What is it?
This is what we need. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The thing is, we talked about the past. We talked about the present. See, I won't say that we are not. When we say we are not happy with educators, I don't want people to get the wrong concept that we don't like the school system. We don't like this. No. We're not saying that. I think everybody is doing an extremely good job in a system that has been defined wrongly. Right? So I don't want anybody to misunderstand that this guy is whacking teachers and this guy is whacking school leaders and everything. No, the definition from day one has been off. I will not say day one, ever since the change happened, right? Ever since 2005, maybe, ever since iPhone came about. So, you know, now the world is different, and the redefining is just taking way too long. Actually, if you don't mind, Dave, the change in education is what you're saying, right?
What is the big change in education?
The biggest change in education is you need to shift the responsibility back to the kids. The biggest change. They have figured out Instagram. They have figured out Facebook. They have figured out all the games you buy for them. They've figured out all the technology you've also bought for them, right? They can figure out learning. They are capable. You need to trust them. The key word here, the biggest change, if you want it to happen, the key word here is trust, right? And the responsibility must be shifted back to the kids completely, 100%, not even 99.5%. It's 100% shift. My opinion. Anybody else?
Juliana, what do you think?
Okay, as a parent, yeah, 100% is a bit, it's a huge challenge, even, you know, for me that, you know, I don't really, Okay, I think if I were to put it back into industry terms, right, it really sounds like this whole entire redefining of education sounds like an innovation transformation altogether. And what does that mean, right? It really means creating efficiency for existing work processes. It means that how do we then make a child learn easier? If that's the process of learning, if today process of learning is 5 steps, the teachers talk, the student listen, they pick up the homework and do, they submit the homework, and you do an exam. So that's the 5 steps to learn something. So that's their process, okay? If that is the as-is process, what should be the to be? And if you're talking about translating that into industry terms, which is efficiency, I reduce the steps and reduce the roles involved. And I can easily say that the future of education should be how do we then reduce the step of child learning in that case. If I were to bring in the projects back into this context, the kids pick up, the teacher gave the project brief. The kids pick out the project and basically deal with the end-to-end process. Isn't that like a 1 step versus the 5 steps? It's just the top of the mind, right? So it's just putting back into context, because interestingly, when I've been doing a lot of innovation transformation for corporate companies and things like that, a lot of industry are doing the change, right? You have fintech, you have healthcare, health tech, you have prop tech, property tech, but education tech is something that it's actually not happening and not innovative at this point of time.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, so I am really thinking and looking forward to see the speed shift, and how do we actually cut the number of roles and cut the number of create this efficiency of learning.
Efficiency and responsibility in learning, I think, are the key takeaways. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we had a great session. There was a lot of inputs and definitely more to come. We are looking to meet other educators. This for everyone out there watching this video. We are looking to meet other educators as well, people who are passionate. That's your favorite word of the day, passionate. We're gonna share our LinkedIn links, our Instagram, our YouTube, and our Facebook and everything. Come in and have a conversation with us. Come in and understand what we are doing here in Singapore and in India to be that change in education, and also retracing back. We are not completely putting off saying that education is the worst and all that. We just need to take some steps and efforts to make education better, like shifting the responsibility of learning to the kids and all that. So this is from us. Thank you so much for watching all the way. And I'll share with you all the links as well. You can just stay tuned for the next episode. Bye-bye.